No, this is what I always say to African people. I say to black people.
Yeah.
I say to pastors that every black person must have 2 wives. One.
Maponga, is that you? You know, as you're speaking, and I've seen that you're very close with Ndate Maponga. He's, as far as I understand him, he never said he's anti-Christ. He said he's anti the white Christ that is sold to us with the blue eyes and long hair and white. Do you also subscribe to that?
Of course, you know, because Jesus wasn't white.
Okay.
Jesus was black.
Yeah.
You know, one of the most craziest things that happens in the church, my brother, it is when a church buys a warehouse from a business and turns that warehouse into a church.
And people come there to pray for work.
People come into the warehouse. I mean, for me, these are the craziest things that I've seen in the church. You know?
Biggest question I want to ask you right now is there anything you could have done to salvage or save your marriage?
I don't know. Then I became a self-made consultant. And you know one of the things that I've sold an helicopter.
You sold a helicopter?
Yes, I sold an helicopter. I was in DRC, and somebody was telling me that the president is looking for 2 helicopters. Can you organize? I said, yes. And they had no clue.
Never. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on the Gospel Reality Podcast. I'm your friend, your uncle, your nephew, Rato. And today I've got a dynamite. Yeah. You know, people came in convoys. Yeah. They say a man of God doesn't go alone. So the ushers were in another car. And then the other ushers were in another car. I think he was in the middle there, you know, presidential things. But ladies and gentlemen, before we go into that, please don't forget to subscribe to the Gospel Reality Podcast on all social media platforms. And make sure you tell your friend, so your friend can tell your friends, you tell your family. Umbuso Wezulu must grow. And ladies and gentlemen, before we go any further, before I forget, today's episode I'd like to dedicate it to my late grandmother. We put her to rest last week at the age of 85. I call her Goginos, but her real name is Nokwazi Mulefe. I hope she's resting in peace, and I hope she's an extra angel for me. And Tata Mruta, are there anything like angels?
Yeah, they're angels.
Okay. You heard it, Mus. So I've got an extra angel there in heaven. So, angel, please tell them to subscribe. Please, Mama. But I hope she's resting in peace. We're dealing with grief. But Guzulunga. And my song of the week this week is from Unatim Zekeli. It's called Intlantla. Beautiful song. Please check out Unatim Zegeli's song. I think it's a 5-track EP, or it's an Angazwi Bizan, but there's a song there, Intlantla. It's got that Zulu African vibe. Beautiful music. But without any further ado, today we've got a dynamite in studio. And now I'm trying to be, all professional, because he does this for a living, we do it on the side, and he does it for a living. And today I've got Pastor Enoch Phiri.
Wow.
Baba, how are you?
I'm blessed.
Are you good?
I'm honored.
Are you honored
to be here?
Well, somebody who's for those who don't know, Abafundis.
Yeah.
You came up with Abafundis.
Yes.
I'm a bishop.
I'm a bishop.
Both
Abafundis and I'm a bishop. Yes.
It was your concept, your idea.
Absolutely.
And then you were on Dumisa TV.
Yes.
And then
I've been almost on every channel.
Even magazines.
Yes.
Which anointing is this?
It is the grace.
It's a grace,
yeah. Because you see what happens. Pastors go through a lot, and pastors face a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
And I've just made a decision that I'll be open about issues of life, which even men of God face.
Yeah.
And because of that, then other people, they consider me to be a very controversial pastor.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm calm. I'm a very calm pastor, though. Yeah.
No. I first saw you on TV. I'm like, hey, who is this man? And I'd like to thank you for your humility and saying, you know what, they might be starting out, ne? But I'm gonna give them a chance.
Sure.
So I appreciate you and the Phiri.
Thank you, sir.
They call you the televangelist.
Yeah.
He's an evangelist. So they call him the televangelist. I think prominent your TV prominency. No one can deny that they know you.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm humbled that you're here, and then you brought your whole team, and I see fire there.
Yeah.
I see fire. And my pastor, when I was much younger, he was from Zambia.
What is it?
Are you from Zambia, ne?
Yes.
He's from Zambia. His name was Enoch Phiri.
Oh.
Yes. Do you know him?
No.
No. So he's from Hammanskraal. So I'm from Hammanskraal.
Is it?
So he was, ever since I was a young man in the Lord, I grew up on his teachings.
Wow.
But now he's back in Zambia.
Oh,
Yes.
beautiful.
His surname is Phiri. So I thought maybe.
Yeah. You know, Phiri is a very common or popular surname in Zambia, Malawi, and Zimbabwe. In fact, Phiri is a the surname.
Is this
in the southern region? Yes.
In the SADC, you're right.
Yeah, in SADC, yeah.
Kind of what does Phiri? Is Phiri a monkey?
No. You see, when you go among the Tswanas,
Yes.
the interpretation of Phiri is a hyena.
Hyena.
Yes. But when you go to the Nyasas, like me, Chewas, it means mountain or rock.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
But in Zimbabwe, it's also monkey. When you put it with the other clan names.
oh, is it?
There's a monkey somewhere.
And there's
Yeah. Because I know the Phiri of a hyena.
Yeah.
So, but I know Phiri also, there's monkey somewhere there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a monkey spirit. But Phiri, I know there's monkey somewhere.
Absolutely. There's a monkey somewhere.
Yeah, but you know, in Africa, we actually won.
Absolutely.
We actually won.
Absolutely.
You know, a monkey here is a Phiri there, and a Phiri there is a hyena there.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're trying to relay a message.
Sure.
And did you grow up in Zambia?
I grew up in Zambia first few years of my life, though I've spent more
time
in South Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I've been in South Africa for, to be more precise, 35 years.
35 years. Oh, your papers are in order.
Yeah.
Your papers are in order now.
Yeah. You know, I was on a show in Zambia.
Yeah.
You know, like I said last week, I was in Zambia.
Yeah.
So, you know, because my accent doesn't sound Zambian, doesn't sound South African, doesn't sound anything. It's just an African accent I have. So when I was on the show, somebody was saying, Did he say he's a Zambian? We need to scrutinize him and check his surname. Maybe he's one of those people from African countries who came and bought some Zambian papers. You know, I just laughed. Oh, wow.
But your roots are in Zambia.
Absolutely, yeah.
Ne? So, are you a permanent resident down this side?
Very much African.
Really? So you vote here?
Yeah, I vote here. Yeah. You know, I became conscious about politics in South Africa.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I left Zambia when I was, I think, 17 or 18. And I vote here. I participate in the dialogue issues here in South Africa.
Was it ENCA? 2017, they called you to talk about land reform.
Yes.
I was like, how? It was the first time I see a pastor talking about the politics. So that's what gravitated me to you.
Wow, yeah. Because I've been, you know, when it comes to the issues of land, my brother, like, it's very central to my heart.
Yeah.
The issues of land, you know, because when you read the Bible says, God said to Moses, I want you to deliver my people and take them to a land to worship me. 3 key words. One is deliverance, which is liberation.
Yeah.
The second word is land, and the third word is worship. They're in one line.
Yeah.
I want to deliver my people, take them to a land to worship me.
Yeah.
So you cannot worship God exclusively as a black person if you are not liberated and you are not worshiping him on your land. Because the issues of land is connected to deliverance and connected to worship. You know, the people of Israel, they said, how can we worship God in a foreign land? You can never...
So location is important.
Of course. Location is very important.
And ownership of your land.
You know, this is what I always say to African people. I say to black people.
Yeah.
I say to pastors that every black person must have 2 wives. One
Maponga, is that you?
One must be the land, and the other one must be a woman.
A woman,
Yeah.
yes.
These are the 2 wives for every man.
Yes.
You can never possess any a blessing if
Yeah.
you don't have an entitlement to a land.
Who? You're right, because Adam was working on the land, and then Eve came.
Absolutely.
Hey, Bonza, reconnect, you see.
Absolutely.
I'm with you there.
Absolutely.
This explains why then the DA ran you out in Soweto.
Yes. Oh, you know about that? Yes.
The DA ran you out
Yes.
when Tate Mashaba was...
When Mashaba was the mayor.
Yes.
When Mashaba was the mayor, they were very much uncomfortable with me. In fact, they interpreted my church as an ANC church. Not really because of...
But you invited them and get it to
Yes,
talk.
yeah. Like, you know, I invited not only the ANC, I invited EFF, I invited any progressive black party, any party that represents the ideology of a black man. I invited them to church, though it was interpreted as though I'm propagating the EFF stroke ANC agenda, which wasn't, because you see, if we are to speak the truth, my brother, South Africa is the only country in the world which has the black people in political power but no financial or economic power whatsoever.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, our people don't control the economy.
We've got nothing.
We've got nothing. We've got nothing. You know, so if there is a need, the church need to address this issue.
Yeah.
And I know the church people, they focus so much on tithes. You know, I mean, pastors are focusing so much on people to give tithes. We are not focusing on the issues of true liberation, where people are liberated financially, economically, and otherwise, you know. And as long as we don't have that narrative, the church is not communicating the message effectively to the public.
Ooh. Wow. You are pro Africanism?
Absolutely. I'm a Pan-Africanist.
Pan-Africanist.
You see, Pan-Africanism must never be confused with African spirituality. You know, because there's this agenda in the whole world.
Yeah.
Adafrica, to be more specific, to depopularize the church.
Oh.
Yeah, there is an agenda. And this agenda is advocating the so-called African spirituality. For me, which is craziness. You mentioned Maponga. I've had a lot of conversations with Maponga on his theories on African spirituality, because at the end of the day, I only believe in one man who came to save the world, and that's Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
And Jesus Christ, he was born in the at that time in the first century. It was in the Roman Empire, whereby the Romans had colonized Israel, or the province of Judea, as it was known in those days. So Jesus appeals a lot to me, because he was born in a colonial system, and he preached to a colonial powers like the Roman powers to liberate people at that time from the clutches of both poverty as well as political enslavement by the Romans. And that's why the Bible says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has called me to preach the good news to the poor. Jesus identified himself with the poor, and hence today I believe in Jesus Christ, and because Jesus Christ appealed and identified himself with the poor and with the people that were oppressed. He comes from that background.
You know, as you're speaking, and I've seen that you're very close with Tate Maponga. He's, as far as I understand him, he never said he's anti-Christ. He said he's anti the white Christ that is sold
Yes,
to
sure,
us with the
sure.
blue eyes and
Sure,
long hair
sure.
and white. Do you also subscribe to that?
Of course, because Jesus wasn't white.
Okay.
Jesus was black.
Yeah.
That's why, the Egypt of 500 years ago is not the Egypt of Arabs.
It's not, yes.
It was the Egypt of black people. It was an Egypt of the Cushites. And when Herod wanted to kill Jesus, the Bible says the angel of the Lord spoke to Joseph and Mary that go with this child to Africa. Why? Because Africa was the only place where Jesus would be
Blend in.
who blend in. And then the Herodian soldiers and the Roman soldiers won't be able to trace him out. So Jesus was very much black. I've got issues with the colonial Jesus, who was designed and created by the West in order to insult the African heritage. Jesus was very much black.
But if he was black, he must have been Tswana.
I thought he was the Nyasa.
If he was Zulu, they were going to sit and fight. Tswanas ran away. So, I need to ask you this.
Yeah.
Is there, and I'm glad you specifically came, and I can ask you this question.
Sure.
The pulpit. So I want to ask you the role of pastors in politics.
Yeah.
Do they have a role to play? And the pulpit, we grew up knowing that this is the holy ground. Not just everyone goes on the pulpit.
Yeah.
Only anointed men of God or singers can be in that vicinity. But then we get people like you, people like Ntate Musasono, who allow politicians to come and canvass. Are you firstly not selling out the Christians? Are you secondly not inviting, I'm not saying they are not holy, but people who are deemed not holy into a sacred space that as Christians we receive or we eat from? We eat from clean vessels.
Yeah. My brother, I think it's very much important for the church to acknowledge that there's a lot of wrong things that we have done. We are too judgmental, and we've got these tendencies of demonizing people, demonizing organizations, demonizing even politics. Politics, first and foremost, belongs to the body of Christ, because the Bible is about governance. I always say that the Bible is about three things. The Bible is about a king, a kingdom, and the royal family, and that's the Christians. And we can never leave politics in the hands of non-believers. We can't, because you see, like in South Africa currently, the only church which is very much vocal where governance issues are concerned is the Anglican Church.
Oh yes,
they're very vocal, and even from the days of Bishop Emirates, Bishop Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and Ubabu Thabo, these people have been very much vocal and open. It was Bishop Tutu who denounced the leadership of Robert Mugabe. It is the Bishop Desmond Tutu who even challenged the former president of South Africa, President Zuma.
Zuma, yes.
Because the church is so quiet. You know why? Because they can easily be bribed. I want so much demonize the aspect of inviting politicians to our churches. Remember, as a pastor, I can't canvass on behalf of any political party. I can't do that, because I believe in leadership, and the leadership which I believe in is the leadership which is based on godly policies which are designed by different political parties. That's what there are things that I love about the EFF, and there are things that I love about the ANC, and there are things that I love about other political parties. I'm not a person that would basically subscribe to the DA policies, because the DA over the years they've been really been anti-black. I mean, like we know it, and everyone knows it, and to that extent, I've invited people on my platform in the church to speak about their policies.
Yeah.
Because in my church, I've got people from different political backgrounds.
Yeah.
So people who subscribe rather to political groupings.
And affiliations, yeah.
Affiliation, that's the word I was looking for. And because of that, I believe politicians must be invited to the church for them not to converse, to explain themselves. It only becomes a problem if a pastor is bribed for having a certain platform in the church.
I see.
But then, you know where we're getting it wrong? Where we're getting wrong is that we don't account, or we don't bring these politicians to accountability. I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of leaders like Utulima Donsela. She's one of the people that I used to speak to a lot when she was the public protector.
Yeah.
And also the former the former Chief Justice. I've engaged them on a lot of governance issues. Because you see, my position is a politician mustn't come to my church to converse only, but also to give report back. What is going on? You need to do accountability, and I remember at one point, whenever I have conferences, I would invite a politician, or maybe the time this person maybe is a minister or a mayor, I would invite for them to open the conference. And one of the things that I would even demand from them is to give accountability. What have you guys been doing? Because you see, the problem with politicians is that they won't come back to your church when they've been voted in power. But then it must be the responsibility of the church to call them.
All right.
To say, Mr. President, I remember you were once at our church, you spoke and you asked our people to vote for you.
Yeah.
Would you please come back and give an accountability of what has been happening on issues which concerns national issues?
According to your promises.
Absolutely.
So, no, I've heard you. I think my biggest, where I'm losing it is a pastor, depending on the political parties he invites, seems biased. So if you're going to say you're acting on behalf of your congregants, then you should actually invite everyone. Because again, you say you're not biased. So if you're not biased, you should invite IFP, EFF, even the DA that you don't like.
Yeah.
You invite, obviously you can check that if we don't have white people, then some people you can leave out. But for you to be neutral, you should be able to invite all political parties.
I won't do that. I won't do that because you see, I am a Pan-Africanist. Any political organization that does not support the progress of a black person, I'll never invite them to church.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, you see, because politics is politics at the end of the day. But now the question is, do their ethos, their policies resonate to the elevation of poverty for a black child? If it doesn't, then you've got no space to come to my church.
I don't know if to say Amandla or Hallelujah, but I heard you there. There's a politician, Christian politician, who used to say Amandla Hallelujah. I don't know what it was. Who was it?
Okay, I see.
He was left. He was supposed to go to Parliament.
Is it?
Yeah, from Hammanskraal there.
Is it?
Amandla Hallelujah.
Mandalula.
Imagine the two together.
Yeah.
So your church called Soweto.
Yeah.
It was in
Protea Glen.
Yeah. You were in a tent, right?
Yes.
And they hit you with bylaws that there's too many people, you can't, and they ran out of town. So that church is closed now.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you had branches everywhere. No?
Yes, I've got branches everywhere, including overseas.
Yeah.
I've got branches in the US, in Australia, and in the United Kingdom, and in Zambia, of course, in Swaziland, in Mozambique.
Wait, did you say Australia?
Yes.
So wait a minute. So now, remember when you went to rehab? Ne?
Yeah.
You went to Australia.
Yeah.
Did you go to your church?
Yeah. Hey, wait.
Oh, it was home ground advantage.
Absolutely,
for you.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, but your church is still thriving. It's okay.
Yeah.
You didn't. But now losing that 3,000 members.
Yeah.
Hey, Peter, that's a serious number. Eh? If
Yeah.
you can gather 3,000 members, there's pastors who still trying to get to 1,000.
Yeah.
No, 1,000 is too much. 250, like filling up an arena or any place building of 100 people.
Yeah.
Every single week is a big thing.
Yeah.
3,000.
Yeah.
Are you eating with farings there? You were sorted. You were sorted.
It's not about offering.
Ne?
You see, I'm a businessman.
Ne?
You see, I've got an issue with the concept of 10%.
Yeah.
I've got an issue. And my issue is this. I believe that the church must give their 10%.
Yeah.
But my problem is, which pastor invests his time to focus on the 90% which their members are keeping to themselves? If I can meet that pastor, I'm going to congratulate that pastor because the church should be so much investing in empowering people what they do with the 90%, more than what they do with the 10%. The problem that we have in the church as pastors, we so much focus on the 10% without investigating further. Abazalwane benzani
Ye
90%.
But the church does not have to even bother about that. Is not none of their business. As long as the 10%, and we'll go to the 10% now. It's not just about the 10%. The 10% is what the church should be worried about. Should the church now be worried about what happens to the 90%?
It's not worried per se, but concerned.
Oh.
Because like for example, I'll give you an example. When we speak about major religions in the world, the church or Christianity falls under the most poverty-stricken communities.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not a secret. When we speak about, tell me a church
You're right.
which owns a narrative. Even in South Africa, we don't own a narrative.
So let me ask it this way. Do you think, I understand that churches in South Africa are divided for whatever reason. Because people will say, like you say, we should worry about the 90% because even the 10% that we give to the church goes back to, for example, a bank.
Yeah.
That is
Yes.
white owned.
Absolutely.
And if South African churches can come together and build their own bank,
Yes.
that will, because there's a lot of money that comes into the church,
Absolutely.
and that can empower the black child.
Absolutely. Like you go to a number of banks in Africa, from Cape to Cairo, you've got banks which have got like Sharia policies, which are subscribed by the Muslims.
Yeah.
You're never going to find one institution owned by the church which have a special financial institution.
Which got influence.
No, there's no influence. The church has no influence whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. If the church can focus on the 90%, is when I come to you and say, my brother, let's talk about investment. Let's talk about with your 90%. Okay, we are done with your 10%. Says as a church. But now let's talk about your 90%.
Yeah.
With your 90%, let's talk about investment. Can we invest in a financial institution which can be owned by the church?
Yeah.
We don't have that narrative.
Angry Banje, also greed takes place. There was a pastor
Absolutely.
I used to love in Pretoria. And it's alleged, ne? I heard it, but people say it's true. He put together money, Clement Ibe.
Oh yeah.
He put together money for like a social, so you can raise money.
Yeah.
And then he took the money and he left and he went to America or wherever he is. So the greed, and you see VBS. So the greed amongst black people, because we're not used to money, is also a scary factor,
Too much.
So we take it back to white people, and they must manage it for us.
Yeah.
Because it seems like we can't do these things.
We can't.
But we've got people like you now who's gonna take us across the line.
Being a pastor is one of the biggest scams which has happened to an African child. Someone said to me, why don't we call you bishop or apostle? Why you called a pastor? I don't believe in titles. I would even rather be called Mr. Or Sir, for that matter. Because the name that has been given to the work of a pastor is so bad. It's so bad. I'm a public figure, and wherever I go, people recognize me. I'm a pastor. Sometimes you are going into the airport and boarding a plane. You can even hear some people say, "Yeah, Nazima Zabazalwan." So I'm saying, and to that extent, it concerns me. It concerns me, and I believe it will take maybe another 50 years or 100 years if Jesus doesn't come sooner for the position of a pastor to be cleaned. Because once you are called a pastor, you are a suspect when it comes to issues of money.
Money.
And
women.
That's why man and
women.
Oh yeah. I didn't see that one coming.
Hey,
money and women.
They say pastors and hey. So they say the reason why church is full of women is because the husbands don't agree, because pastors, they take the 10% and take the women as well. But that's what they say. I don't know. So, and I can listen to you as a businessman, because I know for a fact you started your business. You started off selling snook, ne?
Yeah.
Selling
yes.
snook and bringing it this side.
I used to get it from Cape Town.
From Cape Town.
Yes.
And bringing it this side.
Yes.
So I know your history of
yeah,
business.
Yeah.
Tata Machan. You're a proper businessman. However,
now let me tell you, this is one of the darkest part of my business. Ne?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. These videos some years ago.
Yeah.
Like you get these videos, you make them on your computer.
Yeah.
And you sell them. I didn't know it was illegal. Okay. So I remember I went to John Foster police station to sell the.
To sell the CDs.
To sell the CDs. Buy one and get 3 movies. So I go there and the commander of the police station says to me, "Oh, how much are you selling? Do you know this thing is illegal?" So I've got no clue. He says to me, "Please come to my office." Then I went to the office. Then he explained to me.
You're lucky you didn't get arrested. But I feel like we're going to take time. But there's a question I had for you on tithes. Since you're a pastor.
Yes,
So, according to my understanding, tithe was 10% of your harvest.
Yes.
And I believe the Bible doesn't miss its words when it comes to explaining things.
Yeah.
And money has always been there.
Yeah.
Why is tithe 10% of harvest? And I get it. When you've got harvest, you've got the land, then you can give. But for a poverty-stricken people to take their 10% of not their harvest, but where they are working, so they can get the land.
Yeah.
Is tithe the way it's done now right and is suitable?
Okay. I think your question is loaded with a lot of information. You see, first and foremost, the concept of 10% is from God. The first and foremost, it's from God, and we can't question the actual thing of 10%. Nevertheless, 10%, when God spoke to the people of Israel, it was for the land owners, first and foremost. Because I can discern where you're trying to get me to. It was for land owners. And these land owners, whatever their harvest they would get from the land, they'll give 10% unto the Lord. And today, we've got people who are glorified slaves. We call them civil servants. They work for the government, others work for white people. They don't own any land. Nevertheless, they give their 10% from their earnings. But then, the church's position, like remember I spoke a little bit about the 90%.
Correct.
The 90% is where the church must invest its teachings more to empower this child, to empower this church member of how to be a landowner with his 90%. Because 10% is nothing. If we really look at it, it's nothing. But then our times as pastors is so much invested in talking about the 10%. I've got friends, my colleagues, they preach more about 10% more than they preach about 10%, about the 90%. Now, I've made a decision in my life to preach more about the 90%. Because this is now which can unlock that land where you can harvest and pay properly your 10% from your land. Now, as long as we don't talk land ownership as the church, we don't talk about possessing the land as the church, then we've got still a long way to go. This is my position about 10%. It's pity. It's a pity, my brother, that we accept 10% from our gogo, our tupegayo, from who earns their money through Isasa. Then, as a pastor, you take that 10% from them. But when you go back to the Bible, the book of Malachi says, "Give your 10% so that there may be food
in the
in the house, in the storehouse." I like it because you know the Bible. So now the food which is in the house, in the biblical term, they're using a word that there may be food in the storehouse, but the original text there in the Hebrew text, it says so that there may be resources in the house of God. What resources are we talking about? The church must be the biggest employer before even government. The church must create opportunities for people to come and work. Now, unfortunately, because we don't understand the whole 10% concept, that's why, like one of the things that I really appreciate about Maponga, Bishop Maponga, I call him Bishop Maponga. I challenged him some other time we were on television. I said, okay, why you call yourself a bishop if you are fighting against the church? He didn't answer me that question. But Maponga always says, Jesus fed 5,000 people, one man, Jesus feeding 5,000 people. Unfortunately, today, we've got 5,000 people feeding one man. And this is where I have a problem. So a church must come up with creative money-making ideas so that people mustn't come to church when they're looking for employment. One of the most craziest things that happens in the church, my brother, it is when a church buys a warehouse from a business and turns that warehouse into a church.
And people come there to pray for work.
People come into the warehouse. I mean, for me, these are the craziest things that I've seen in the church. I'm not really against churches going out of their way to buy warehouses, but the church can't buy a land and build a church on a fertile land. A church must buy a fertile land and turn it into agricultural land. Do livestock. That's why I'm a farmer. That's what I'm saying. Because I'm trying by all means to correct the wrongs which have been done by us as men of God. I need to be, if I meet a person, I must change their lives. One of the guys that came with us here, Musiso, I can talk about him. When I met him, my agenda was to change his life. Musiso didn't know about church. Because Sun City almost every weekend. People were bailing me out from Sun City prison. So when I met him, I showed him the love of God. And I never told him that, look, bring people to church. No. This guy works harder even to invite people to church. No. Not because of the freebies he gets from me, but because of the empowerment which he has experienced as a person. So that even if he's no longer with me, the knowledge has learned from me must sustain his life for many years to come.
So in that we also need change our lives. I want to build a bigger studio. But Pastor, I heard you, ne?
Yeah.
I see why pastors don't like you. Hey, which I like gospel. You know that gospel, ne? That bitter gospel. That
Yes. And this is one of the reasons why I remember Aubrey from Mojalav. He called me. He said, they wanted to do a show about me. They did of IBCWIA. Then they did another show of Makamu. So they wanted to do a show on me.
Yeah.
Then I said that time I was in a mess. I just came from divorce. My life was so I said, you know what, I'll be a spectacle and a joke to the whole South Africa. So I said, let me arrange and bring men so that we question what is the issues of the church. Then I called Muema. Tebuko.
Tebuko is a gay one.
Yeah, I called him.
The LGBT.
I called him. I said, I want us to do the show. Then I called Maponga. I said, Maponga, let's do the show. Let us question what is happening in the church. Hey, people hated us. Hey, pastors were angry with us, because we said, let's talk about this mess happening in the church.
Yeah.
Others people say, these people are just frustrated.
Pastor, I've heard you on this one, man.
Yeah.
I think the tithe one, we'll look at it another day.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of questions regarding tithes, but you really touched. You've touched enough for me to see where you are.
Absolutely.
Before we pass on this one, on the political front, what's your view on borders?
On borders? Obviously, borders were designed by the colonial powers, first and foremost.
Yeah.
Borders were never designed in a good intention.
Correct.
By our leaders and our people. Remember, Africa was organized through kings. Through kingdoms.
Kingdoms, yes.
And kingdoms were conquered and kingdoms were conquering.
Correct.
Were being conquered and this is how it was. Africa was designed, and few drunk people were in a hotel somewhere in Europe, and they started playing dice or started playing lot on which country to take. Then the British. They took some countries, the French, the Belgians, and that's how we became victims of colonialism. Okay, and borders are there, and each country protects its own borders, because remember, these borders were designed by colonial powers, and my thinking of borders were not supposed to be there in the first place.
No, but they're here now. Should they remain? Are they still serving a purpose?
I don't think they're serving a purpose, because they're only, of course, serving a purpose of colonial masters up to today. Let me give you an example, my brother. There is what we call LME, London Metal Exchange. This is an organization which determines the sales of gold, diamonds, and copper and anything. Zambia. Zambia is the second a producer of copper after Chile. Correct. In the whole world.
Correct.
Zambia. And these minerals are controlled not by our politicians.
That's it.
They are controlled by the West. And now the borders make it even easier for them to extract those minerals using those laws which they created and designed in the colonial days. So borders are there, but they're only serving the purpose of the former colonial masters. That's all.
So we should abolish borders.
Obviously, not like today, but there should be a narrative.
We should work towards it.
We need to work towards it. Because whether we like it or not, we are not enjoying the resources of our own countries. Because when we speak about borders, what makes Zimbabwe unique? It's because of its natural resources, which Zimbabweans offer. And how many Zimbabweans are enjoying those natural resources?
Hey, man, I was there, so
you know that. You see, we are not campaigning anymore. Mackenzie, the new minister of
Mackenzie.
yeah,
#Abahambe.
Uyakhumbula his story.
Yeah.
But he's been having a mind in Zimbabwe. Remember, he was in prison, then he took money from that he got money from exposing what was happening in the prison. Remember, his story.
Yes,
then most of that money, he didn't invest in South Africa. He invested where? In Zimbabwe. He bought a mine in Zimbabwe. And I hope he's watching this program. He bought a mine in Zimbabwe, and he used the issue of xenophobia to his advantage to get a seat in parliament. Is he talking the same language now? He's changed.
He's gymming. He's a minister now. Minister of sports. So I guess it's also the portfolio they gave him.
Absolutely. And I think the president he was very thoughtful to give him that position. I support Julius Malema's position. I know it won't happen anytime soon for having a borderless Africa, yeah. But one day to happen. You see, because Africans can easily be bought. Africa is a mess. My brother, I was in Zambia last week. All the mines in Zambia.
Yeah.
Let me not make a hasty generalization. Let me say 90% of the mines in Zambia are foreign owned. Yeah. Yeah, and these foreigners are changing from the British to the Chinese, from the Chinese to the Russians. The Russians were not in Zambia, now the Russians are in Zambia now. So we can never be proud as black people and enjoy the benefits of our own resources if we don't talk the language of borderless Africa.
Sure. Pastor, I've heard you on that one. Now I want to go into, because if we go in politics, this whole thing is going to be about politics now. I want to go into you being a pastor, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, you started at NG Kerk, ne?
Yeah.
Dutch Reformed.
Yes, Dutch Reformed.
So that's where you came in, and then, and this is the point I want to go to. Your mother was not Christian.
Yeah.
She was actually it's not a sangoma.
Yeah, she was a spiritualist. She was
spiritualist,
more than a sangoma. Yeah.
More than a sangoma.
No. She used to heal people. I don't want to say more than a sangoma. This is just a slip of a tongue. Yeah. She used to heal people using water.
Yeah.
And using herbs. Yeah.
So how did you move from that realm? And your dad went to. But your dad went to church,
yeah.
But your mom was a spiritualist.
Yeah, it's like you know too much about me.
And then you had to emerge and become a man of God.
Yes.
And some people will say, but these guys from Africa, before they leave their countries, they've got their family members, in this case your mother, who did something to you so you can be so progressive, and that's why you've made it so much. Are those things true?
You see, I'll tell you something, my brother, which is so true about me.
Yeah.
I met Jesus both as an historical figure and also by revelation.
Yeah. With Renard Bonke?
No.
Before him?
No.
Okay, sorry.
I don't know where your question's
No, I was saying we got saved through Renard Bonke.
I didn't get saved really through Renard Bonke. I got saved through the former president of the Republic of Zambia, Dr. Nevas Mumba. Right. He was a pastor and he was a televangelist. Right. Then I got saved through his ministry.
All right, cool.
Through television.
Yeah. Right.
That's
sorry for disturbing you. Please carry on. Yeah.
So now, I know Jesus by revelation.
Okay.
When I accepted Jesus into my life, Jesus started a new page. My mother, who was a sangoma, I ministered to her about this Jesus. And I remember with my brother, when we ministered to her, she was practicing and helping a lot of people. When she received Jesus that day, she manifested demons, manifested through her, and God delivered her.
So your mother ended up being a Christian?
Yes. She ended up being a Christian, but she joined my father and started serving in the Dutch Reformed Church. And today my mother is an elder in the church.
Oh.
Yeah.
If there's one woman that I can tell you that has been praying for me, it's been my mother. I gave my life to Jesus when I was 13 years old. And by the time I was 15, I laid her to the Lord Jesus Christ. So my experience with Jesus is very personal.
It's personal.
Yeah. That's why I try by all means to read the Bible. And you know, if there's one thing that I do every night, almost every night, I listen to documentaries about the first century. Because that is where, when Jesus was born and Jesus walked upon the face of the earth, because I want to connect to the politics of the first century. What was happening in the Roman Empire? What did people eat in the first century? How did people socialize in the first century? You know, so that has been one of my passion, like as I get to know more about Jesus Christ. But also remember, in Africa, there is a thin line between witchcraft and Christianity.
You need to go deeper there.
So most people who go to church, they are not really looking for Jesus. They are looking for a sangoma they see in a pastor.
Ooh.
Many people, if you can look at these advertisements that are happening even on television, people inviting people to come to that church, it's all witchcraft happening in the body of Christ. We are no longer advocating faith in Christ. We are advocating what is known as talisman.
Sure.
Talisman is when you say to people, you can come to Christ, but use this anointing oil.
Yeah.
Or buy this anointed water. It is going to resolve your problems. And this is why I've become so much unpopular among many pastors.
Sure. Wow. Hey, Pastor, you are going deep now. So, as black people, we're not really looking for Christ. We're looking for quick fixes.
Yeah, quick fixing.
Ne?
Quick fixing. You know. I was talking to someone.
Hey, Pastor, you're always talking to somebody. Eh?
Yeah. The day before yesterday, you know, like this person says, where are you? No, me. I'm here at church. I'm cleaning the church so that God may bless me. It's people in Africa. We've got a mentality of gambling. I must do this
so God can do that.
So that God can bless me. And I always say to my church that don't give to be blessed, but give because you are blessed. Because many people, they give to be blessed. They don't give because they are blessed. The giving mentality, even the way we speak about offering in our churches, it's a poverty mentality kind of approach. You must give so that God can deliver you from poverty. No, you don't give to be delivered from poverty. You work to be delivered from poverty.
Hey,
and you give because you are blessed.
You know what I used to hear? But no. No, what do you got? Show your faith and then takes one step towards him, he'll take 9 towards you. And that's the gospel we've been hearing when we were growing up. You must put your faith in him and he will do the rest. You know, those are the things we're hearing. So are you telling me that's not true?
When you do your best, God will do the rest, obviously. But now, doing the best is not only financially. Doing the best is also my commitment. I always say faith is acting like it is so, even though it is not so, so that it may so, because God has said so.
Right.
So faith is more about what God has said, more than what I speak. You understand what I'm saying? So people must be driven by what God has said. If God has said it, then it will happen.
It will happen. Sure. The leader and the senior pastor of Restoration House has spoken here about how you should give, why you should give, and what are the circumstances that should lead you to giving. The church should be the biggest employer, more than government.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see how that will happen. But Pastor, I want to come back to, do you still preach now on Sundays?
Yes, I do. I took a break. I took a break from ministry, from preaching, because I went through like an ugly patch of my life. The issue of divorce, it is in the public domain, and I took a break from preaching because I believe that when you are hurt,
especially as a man of God.
Yeah.
You need to go through healing
Yeah.
before you can because you can end up hating the church. You can end up preaching hate on the pulpit, because there are a number of things that I had to deal with. And among those things that I had to deal with was the forgiving myself and forgiving my former partner, and also letting go. And in the process, I took time from the pulpit.
Are you married now?
Not yet.
Or not yet?
Yeah.
You're still looking. Hey, I saw the article yesterday.
You saw that article yesterday?
I saw an article yesterday. I said, no, let me just check a bit on this man, because obviously everything I know was prior. And I saw about it, this man took a Ushai Dr. Angstine. How do I explain it? He took a girlfriend from a doctor. I'm like, hey, this man's got serious money. Yeah? To take a person from a doctor. So I thought then.
That's right.
I thought then that meant you were married again.
No, it was a relationship which only
Right? You can't
happened in 3 months.
in 3 months.
Yeah.
But she was a prophet.
Hey, I don't want to talk about other people.
Prophetess. But the prophetess, she don't. What's that? So I want to talk about now you're sitting on the red couch. Ne?
Yeah,
The red
okay.
couch symbolizes fire now.
Oh,
You didn't know.
I've just noticed now.
You didn't feel the heat.
I feel it.
So you went through tough times, right?
Yeah,
You went through a divorce.
yeah.
Would you say it's not your fault?
You know what? I would never. You see, my ex-wife has no access to the media. She has no access to the podcasts and televisions and so forth. So I think it would be so much unfair
All right.
if I can. If I can paint her black,
Ne?
it would be so much unfair.
It's
So that's why I decided, of every interview that I ever had
Yeah.
on major channels and podcasts, I take responsibility.
All right.
Yeah.
Mike, I think the biggest question is, and I respect that. That's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
noble of you. The biggest question I want to ask you right now is there anything you could have done to salvage or save your marriage?
I don't know. You know.
I get you're taking responsibility.
Yes.
So when somebody takes responsibility, they acknowledge that I've done wrong 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, you remember it takes two to tango.
Eish,
You know.
I was hoping you don't go there.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what I would have done to solve or resolve the issue of my marriage. I don't know.
Ne?
Yeah, you know, because I did everything. We've gone for counseling.
Yeah.
We've been to Bishop Katide, Bishop Musa Sono. We've been to our own pastor, Pastor I.N. Sitole, Davidon, to David Mulapo. We've been to everyone.
Everyone, yeah.
Bishop Benjamin Dube, everyone has spoken to us. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't really say there's something more that I could have done than what I already did. Because
But now you can't get married now, eh?
I will get married.
But what does the Bible say?
Oh, I see where you're... Sorry.
So are you going to get married?
Oh, I see where you're going. Okay, I get you. So that when you divorce, you must remain single.
Yeah, because
as long
it
as
says-
your partner is alive.
It says, if you get married, you're committing what? I want you to say it.
No. You see, I will get married.
Yeah?
Yeah, I will get married, and because it's not good for a man to be alone.
Alone, eh?
Ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah. A man needs a fixer.
No, but it's not just you. You see, Christians, they know the verses for them. But
I like it. Okay, say the scripture. Say it.
Muruti, please do get married, ne?
Yeah.
Because that issue of womanizing, we don't want it anymore. Ne?
No, no.
So you're not there anymore.
No, I've never been there.
Yeah?
I've never been
I
there.
thought we were accused of womanizing, but the biggest one was the alcohol.
Yeah,
Yeah, alcohol. Hey, but a black label was dealing with you.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What were you drinking, Dr. Mruti?
Double black.
Double black?
Yeah.
Hey, Johnny Walker?
Yeah.
Hey, Nyazalap. It came down. So, what led you to the drinking, excessive drinking?
You know what happens, my brother. It's one of those moments which I would never encourage even my enemy to go through that route. I think when I was going through a divorce, or even after the divorce, you see, you get exposed by the media. They want to talk about your marriage, the issue. I remember, like, I was getting calls almost every day from media houses, every day. Now, if you are a pastor, who counsel you when you're going through tough times?
Correct.
Because you go to this pastor with your problem and they use it against you tomorrow. Then alcohol becomes your best friend at that time. Because alcohol gives you a temporary
relief,
gratification. When you are tipsy, you feel like you don't have a problem. Everything is, so that's what drove me there.
Oh.
Yeah, basically, I think my divorce was finalized in 2018, and 2019, COVID. So I was in a 10-hectare property.
Say you've got a farm.
Just alone.
Say you've got a farm. Let the people know.
I was on a farm alone.
Yeah.
And the easiest friend that I could associate to or with at that time, it was alcohol.
Where did you buy your alcohol during lockdown?
You see,
I'm just kidding. Hey, but alcohol was expensive, eh? But take it or leave it.
I had a bar.
Oh, you had a bar?
Yeah, I had my own collections.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you for the collection?
I had.
Oh, you had?
I know.
Oh, you finished it now.
I had my own collection. Remember that time before, I never used to drink to get drunk. I was drinking just to enjoy a drink. Like on a dinner, and I used to buy different kind of wines across the world. If I go to the US, then I'll buy the US wine. If I go to Dubai, I would buy a Dubai wine. So that's for my own hobby at that time.
Collection.
Absolutely. And then it was not an enemy. It was something that I was doing as a hobby.
As a hobby.
Yeah. Now, when the issue of divorce happened, then that became my friend.
The hobby now became your...
Yeah.
So, how do you now tell your fellow congregants that they shouldn't drink, they should stay away from alcohol? If when you were well, before your demise, you could just collect alcohol.
Yeah.
So if you come to my house and I've got a bar, you won't judge me.
No, judgment is not my portion.
You see?
Yeah.
You're starting, Pastor.
Yeah, no. You see, my brother.
Yeah?
There are people that have got different kind of collections. Others, they collect guns. There's nothing wrong. If I find you collecting guns and you've got a gallery of different kind of guns, I shouldn't mistake you to be a murderer.
Oh, okay.
It is a hobby.
It's a hobby.
There are people that have got different kind of car collections, which I don't see anything wrong with that. Now, when it comes to the issue of alcohol is bad and wrong in many different ways, because alcohol destroys families, destroy lives. I know people that would say, no, don't preach against alcohol because Jesus turned water into wine.
Not just wine, sweet wine.
Sweet wine.
That was served at the end.
But the truth of the matter, my brother, is that we're not going to justify anything which is wrong
Okay.
just because somebody is doing it or because I was doing it.
Yeah.
I will not encourage my children to
drink alcohol.
To drink alcohol because a lot happens when you drink alcohol, and the alcohol is not motivation. Alcohol can never be replaced for having a good time.
Nah.
So I'm glad, because after the whole issue, a lot of pastors came to me to say, Pastor Phiri, I've got a problem with alcohol. How can I be helped? I've had calls from a lot of celebrities. I've had conversations even with the late sister Uzahara about the same issue, because alcohol becomes a big escape for many people, high-profile people, people that are protecting themselves from the world. Alcohol becomes an easy escape because not everyone wants to know about my issues or my stories. So when you want to relax and chill, many people, not only in South Africa, across the world, they find themselves, they resort to alcohol. And I thank God because I've become a solution to the problem. Because this world is getting destroyed by the consumption of alcohol, and we can never deny its negative effect on our society.
No, Pastor, I hear you. I also started collecting, but I can't afford a Johnny Walker Blue, please, Pastor. Hey, that blue is expensive.
Yeah.
Hey, that blue is expensive.
Yeah.
So, and I've been saying, hey, my Christian brothers must not know that I collect them. So when I go to different African countries, I'll connect a can of this.
Yes.
But
like Mosi in Zambia, then
Pastor, when you leave here, change my life.
Eh?
I need to afford a blue. Change my life. Pastor, let's move on swiftly, right? So you've told me about marriage. Your marriage, you obviously have kids, and you have to sit down with the kids and say, hey, listen, it's not happening between me and your mother. This is the situation. I'll be seeing you on weekends now. But your kids are grown now, no?
Yeah, they're grown now.
They're grown now. So you have to obviously explain all that stuff. And did you have to also explain it to the church?
Yeah.
Ne? But one thing I need to give a shout out to Pastor Musa Sono and Pastor who came for you, who came and helped you out when you were down. David Mulap.
Yeah, David Mulap. Yeah.
I think they showed true leadership.
Yes.
Because when one soldier
and also
is down,
Bishop Benjamin Dube.
and Bishop Benjamin Dube. Because when you are down, people think you are pastors. We view them as superhumans,
Yeah.
And they don't know that pastors go through a lot. Their marriage, their finances, it's a lot. So I'm glad you are back, Tatamruti. I can see now you're back, man. I know money when I see it. You're back. No. I can see. And you have been cancelled.
Yeah.
There was a time you were off TV, no?
Yeah.
For how long was that?
I wouldn't really say that I was off TV. If you think of it, I've always been on television, but doing different
things.
Things,
But you had programs that were cancelled, and you didn't even know. They didn't even let you know.
I just discovered, I'm no longer on TV.
Yes.
You know what happened that day? I got an email.
Yeah.
From a white guy.
Yeah.
This guy, he was writing to TBN, saying that what must I do to take out this monkey pastor from my screen? Ooh. So now, see, I had no problem with that email. So TBN didn't realize that guy has copied me.
But that guy, his name.
Yeah.
What is his name?
The
guy's name.
What De Kerk something. He was an Afrikaner guy.
Yes.
He copied me and TBN and is asking TBN what must he do to have this monkey pastor removed from the channel. Then TBN responds and say, thank you very much for your email. we are going to process what you have said, and we really apologize that you know, it's like they were comforting him. And immediately, they cancelled my show. Immediately, they cancelled my show because I remember what I said on the show that day. I said that a black man can never be free if a black man doesn't possess a land. My message was around that. You know, like what I said earlier, I was talking about when God delivered Israel, He delivered them to a land to worship Him. So my sermon has 3 points. First, deliverance, which is freedom. Second, land. Thirdly, worship.
Yes.
So most people considered it as a hate speech. Hence, they cancelled my program.
I didn't say they are mad, but I don't say those things here. Natamuruti. So what I needed you here for today, ne?
Yeah.
And I like how transparent you are. You know, some of the things I didn't want to really talk about them because you've got you still have kids.
Yeah.
And you still have prophetess. God, she said she's gone. So I want to talk to you. I want you to please help me on the issue of grief.
Grief.
Dealing with grief,
Yeah.
especially after you lost a loved one.
Yeah.
You know, in the beginning of the show, I said I just lost my grandmother.
Yeah.
It was basically a mother
Ish.
to us.
May
to
her
me,
soul
you know.
rest in peace. Eh?
Yeah, man. May her soul rest in peace. And the where I need to start is where do we, in changing the law, you know, we under the Roman Dutch law now.
Yeah.
The legal system of South Africa, you know.
Yeah.
But it does not understand that as a black child, a mother to you is not just your biological mother.
Yeah.
You can actually be far away from your biological mother, but have a woman who stepped in,
Yeah.
who's very much dear to you. You know, a lot of my white friends, they've got both their parents, and that's why the law will say, no, if you want to take a compassionate leave, it must be your mother,
Yeah.
your father,
Yeah.
your siblings.
Sure.
A grandmother, in the African context, I'd argue that more than 70% of black people who grew up in the homelands were raised by their grandmother. It still continues today. And because I saw this with my uncle, he was trying to explain to a white man that no, my mother's sister passed away. For them, it doesn't resonate.
Yeah. No.
And so I was thinking, is it not time for our judicial system to accommodate? I see even Africans, the black child,
Yeah.
because right there, there's a confusion. What do you think needs to change around it?
I think the whole Dutch Roman law needs to be reviewed. You know, I think there's a need for HR managers to be retrained and to be workshopped, especially when it comes to an African family.
Yes.
You know, because I remember I once worked for the South African Police Service, and I was in the Lena, it was a training college of the South African Police Service. I was in charge, among other things, was to grant leaves for students when they're applying to go out. And I had a very, very good boss. Then he was Superintendent Fukweni. You know what? When people apply for leave, if somebody has died in your family and the student wants to go home and bury their loved ones, we never really went into details to see what is the relationship. Because I think my former boss understood that as black people, the family is very big. And sometimes it will never make sense when you have to translate it into the Dutch Roman law.
Yes.
You know, there is a need for the constitution, especially where family is concerned, to be reviewed. You know, I believe that South Africa has got good judges who can review such kind of law, though there's never been anybody who has challenged it, unfortunately. Remember, I always say that South Africa has got a noisy democracy, in the sense that people make so much noise and they don't know how to challenge the status quo. So like we've got a noisy democracy in the sense that you're not the first person to raise this issue. A lot of people raise issues of this nature, but now they raise them to wrong people. People that cannot review the status quo of the constitution, of the constitution and the Dutch Roman law. So unfortunately, as long as we are talking to wrong people, we're never gonna find proper solutions to the problem. Otherwise, I do agree with you. Like you talk about grief. I lost my father in 2020, and in my family, I'm the second born, or I can consider myself as the firstborn because my sister passed away, who was the firstborn, and I was the first one to get married in my family. So when my father heard about my divorce, he couldn't take it. He couldn't take it, and he died. Yeah, and it was so painful. So I was mourning for the loss of the family. Ngapa, I was mourning for the loss of my father because he was a blessing to me. So he was 74 years old, but life when it's taken away from you. Because you get people that say, Mara, no, but shame, Mara, become dala, man. It doesn't work like that. It
doesn't take away the pain.
It can never take away the pain.
Correct,
so dealing with grief, my brother, it's a challenge. Because the worst which even happens is that when your company hears that so and so has passed on, the same day they hear, they start planning who must replace you.
Exactly. My baby, Pastor, how old are you, Kanti?
I'm 50.
You're 50?
Yeah.
Hey, you're still young. I know. No, you must marry. No. You must marry. And another thing I need to talk about is people, I'm urging black people, please, get your affairs in order in terms of funeral plans, funeral policy. We were helped by Royal Funerals. Those guys are efficient. I need to give a shout out to Royal Funerals.
Wow.
Man. Those guys were efficient. Standard Bank, Asupol, we're still waiting for their payouts. And we've buried already. Ne? So people need to really check who they use. Because these other guys. And the most important thing I want to ask you is, what is the role of, let's start with the church.
Yeah.
When one of your congregants have lost a loved one.
Yeah.
What should the church do?
Yeah. That's a very interesting question. There's no guidelines of how the church should do or how the church can go about it. Nevertheless, in my personal experience, we were once approached by AVBOB to be our underwriter for the members of the church.
Yes.
If they've got any personal issues, then they gave us a subsidized premium, and which was beautiful. And we were encouraging like when you become a member of our church, there's a class that I would do. It was called a membership class or 101 class. And people would buy a document which I prepared for teachings about who the church is. So they would pay that money. And when they pay that money, then that money would be used as money to help those when they have got challenges. So that's how we locked it. Because we don't want to say we are selling, we are charging you to be a member. No.
Yes.
So, but then what we said that this is a document, you can study it, and this is how much you pay for this document. Then that money was going straight to a funeral program for the members of the church.
All right. No, I appreciate that you've got that foresight. What's the role of pastors in funerals? So especially for somebody who say I've got a brother or a sister and they pass away and they were not born again, they were not going to church, they were not even remotely affiliated to a church.
Yeah.
I don't want to say they were drinking because now you'll say I'm starting. But there are people who just don't go to church.
Yeah.
And those people die. Why should I even bring a pastor to bury them? What is the role of a pastor there?
You see, my brother, I've always considered funerals as one of the most powerful platforms to communicate the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Or to people
whoever
attending.
comes. Remember, there are people that have never been to church. Some of them, they say, but at least they love this person. This drunkard who has just died. They love him. And they will find themselves at the funeral.
Yeah.
And Pastor Phiri will be in that funeral to communicate the love of God and the gospel of Jesus to that person.
But when the family requests you as a pastor to come and officiate this funeral, they're not thinking of their drunken friends.
No, they're not.
thinking of their child.
Yes.
Is there anything a pastor can do for that child anymore?
No. Remember the decision about Christ to make it before you die.
Yeah.
You choose the life that you want to live.
Yeah.
And there's a story about the rich man and Lazarus. When Lazarus died, he went to the bosom of Abraham. And the rich man went to hell. Now, when he was in hell, he said to Father Abraham, please send someone to go and preach to my brothers who are still alive. And Abraham said, they've got prophets who are still alive. So a decision of following Jesus will make it before you die.
Before you die.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do when you
There's nothing you can do.
So
Though I know in the Catholic Church, there's a theology which they call purgatory. When you die, you wait somewhere, and the priest can release you from purgatory into heaven. That's another teaching, though we don't subscribe to that.
Wait, yeah. So now I understand the value of a pastor. I'd say value,
Amen.
Because I understand now, but the family feels that we need to have a church service.
Yeah.
Ne? I'm thinking the family is thinking so that the child can find a different route.
Yes.
But I know for a fact they're not thinking about the friends.
Yeah. No.
It's about the person who passed
absolutely.
away. And I loved with the funeral at home now. I loved the role the church played.
Beautiful.
They ran evening services, I think from Thursday and Friday, and on the day of the funeral on a Saturday. And the pastor, I'm running this. He was so involved. And Pastor, do your thing.
Wow, beautiful.
So I loved how they did that, and I love the support generally from the church.
Yes.
I love that whole combination. Now, what is the duty of the family, close family and distant family? Do they have a special duty? Because in our African context and setup, families play a certain role.
Yeah.
In making sure that things have to go a certain way.
Yeah.
So now we know that culture evolves.
Yeah.
Now we're at a point where it's expensive to even run a funeral.
Yeah.
So, what is the role of families?
I wouldn't really say that, usually, like when I'm conducting funerals for church members, I always have meetings with the key member of the family for them to contribute, so that we notified about who is the family representative and so forth and so forth and so on. Like a church works in collaboration with the family, and most of the directions that we get from the family, as a church, comes from the family.
Yes.
Like, there have been instances where they would say, the deceased, before he came to your church, Bekakonza, Anglican, and he would love umfundisi wase Anglican, kube uye, or shumailayo on that day.
Yeah.
So the role of the church basically is to make a collaboration between the family of the deceased and the church itself.
And
so we wouldn't really say what should be the role of the
Yeah.
family be. Sometimes you go to the extent whereby the family would say, ukuthi mfundisi thina la kamageba la kaZulu la, and this is how we do our things, and when you take the coffin out of the church, we want to speak our own things. This
Yes.
takazelo sakhe. So you get things like that.
And you allow it?
I allow it.
All right.
I allow it, because remember, you can't make rules of how a person must be sent off.
Correct.
Especially at a funeral. I will allow it.
You'll allow
I remember when I was a young pastor, I was officiating a funeral in Newcastle. And when we were at the graveyard, those days I was the staunchy Pentecostal preacher who would hit on anything. So then one of the family members says, "Don't for this. Oh, before the coffin goes down, we forgot meat for the underground gangs.
Yeah.
So this man can't be buried
Without meat.
So where is the meat?" They were referring to skumba. I want to skumba
Skumba, yes.
So when they brought that skin to the graveyard, young pastor said, "Ipi nyama, munami ngifuna ukuyidla ipi." Hey, that family were angry. They almost beat me up. So when
you were radical.
Oh, I was radical. So when you grow older, you learn.
You learn.
Ukuthi abantu banento zabo. Obviously, like Mina, I've spoken about how I would love to be sent off, and obviously, I believe in Jesus, and everything is Alpha and Omega. Jesus must be the first and the last. Obviously, no one will be speaking any words because my family know, and I always encourage my church folks to, communicate with your family, about how you'd love to be celebrated, because you can be an elder of the church, the only person in your family who believes in Jesus, and the rest of your family members, they don't believe in Jesus.
Correct.
So on the day of burial, that's when we see things. So I always say to people in the church that communicate with your family members so that you've got an agreement.
Correct.
Yeah.
Utinya menzani? He was fired as a pastor. This man. Remember, you were fired as a pastor.
Yes, I was right.
Let's not go into that. So this one,
Yeah.
So the next one is an issue that's very close to my heart.
Yeah.
And I started talking about it way before we had a funeral at home.
Yeah.
And some people say it's an African way. Some people say it's even biblical. So please guide me on this one, please.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why a grieving family should feed multitudes.
Yeah.
That makes zero sense to me.
Yeah.
They say it's culture. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Why people who are grieving are supposed to be worried about what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink.
Hey, that thing.
You agree?
No, that thing is wrong.
It's wrong, ne?
Because initially, in Africa, when a person dies, the community was involved in making sure that people that come to the funeral are fed. The community.
Community. Yes.
You see what happens in the townships at the funeral, Barbara. You must check. After, when you come back from the graveyard, neighbors in their gowns, in pajamas, now they want to be
to get the food.
Even if they didn't even go to the funeral. It's so much embarrassing. The whole issue is wrong. My brother, I wouldn't even. I'm not even going to consider that as biblical. It's got nothing to do with the Bible. As Africans, we have just drifted away from our values of supporting the family that are grieving. You see, me, I even go to another extent. I remember I had a show some years ago, and I had a conversation with the Ayanda Mwane. She just lost her husband that time.
Yes, it was
Yeah. So she came to the show. We're talking about grieving, and then there was another lady that was also part of the show.
Yeah.
And this lady said, Pastor Phiri, this thing with pastors, they're coming in after every hour there is a pastor. They don't give us time to grieve. And for some reasons, she made a lot of sense. Because when somebody has lost, as they are finding themselves trying to really mourn,
Comprehend,
there's a church after church, church after church, church after church. For me, I think a family must be given some time. The church, okay, we're going to bring a service to your house. Nevertheless, the church must be considerate enough and give the family a break, the time to mourn, because most people that have gone through grieving, the only reality kicks in after a person has been buried, when the church is no longer there and the family is there. In the house alone, and in fact, that's the time when the church must journey with the person who was lost someone. This is just my controversial mind, because I've lost a father before, and I know how much it is impossible for the grieving family to really mourn.
Correct.
Because of the presence of the church, the pastors. You've got no time. You only rest when the last service goes out, maybe about 10, 11 p.m., the last service. That's when you must rest as a family. So they literally punish you with sermons from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. The story of Job is a very interesting story. When Job lost everything, he had these friends who came to visit him. Among his friends, there was one friend who never said anything. He was just there. So sometimes we just need the person to be there for you.
Correct.
My other friend is very sarcastic. When he lost his brother, and people says, at work, hey, sorry, man, shame. What can we do? What can we do? They said to them, buy me a coffee.
And it was quiet.
They were quiet.
But I'm glad you touched on that, because the expenses of people coming, as soon as they hear that there's a funeral, then people start coming. Then you must fix tea, scones, coffee. You end up working. I remember, I think I was working so hard that when the funeral was done, that's when I could fathom what was happening. I said, hey man, this just happened. And you're absolutely right in saying that you get so busy making people who are coming to comfort you, you're busy comforting them. In tea, coffee, whatever else is needed.
It's like you are the one comforting them.
I must comfort them. I must, and the financial implication of it is exorbitant. But people, like, I feel like I don't know if we don't get it, but it was the first time we buried like straight at home, and it was the first time where the entire thing was, I would say, on us or on me, and I could pinpoint and say, but why am I running around for these people? Not in a bad way, but I should be sitting there taking it in, but instead the whole family was running around. No, we need this. We need people to cook. We need this. No, we need to pay for this. We need to pay for that. And not to say it in a bad way. And when people come in, that's when they give them, here's 50 rand, and you realize, this does not even cover your food on Saturday, So I found it bizarre as a black community that when somebody is going through such a difficult time, that it should be a free lunch for everyone. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but
no, I do. I understand.
It didn't sit.
It doesn't sit well at all.
Yeah.
I think these are one of the conversations which the black church should start having. Because it's really unfair for the grieving family. Because some of the families, like what you are saying, that other policies haven't even paid. We've been in situations whereby somebody is getting buried on Saturday and there's no policy which has paid. And the family has to put their heads together for their loved ones to be buried. And the church don't care. The church is not even involved. You know, unfortunately, those are the things that happen. And I think as a black church, we need to have to start having such kind of conversations around that.
Correct. That 90%. And there's the last thing I need to ask around this. What is this thing of, and they also said it's also biblical, when somebody passed away, the family must go and wash that person. That thing is traumatizing, man.
Yeah.
Why do we need to do that?
Yeah. It's very traumatizing. You know, it's black people. It's us. We believe that we must wash a person. Yet it can be done by
those people can do it.
Yes. I think sometimes maybe it goes with the family. You know, the family they want closure.
Yes.
You know, they want to do it. You know, you see, my brother, most of the things are never discussed before a person. You know, people don't talk about these things. I think the question you are raising is very important. I think a person needs to have such kind of conversations because maybe we can even have maybe in future talk about the will. You know, many of us we don't even have
estate planning. It's very important.
Yeah. You know, we don't have a testament about your life or what's going to happen to your estate. We don't talk about that. You know, so there's a lot which has to be spoken about, especially before you die. Have conversation with your family. You know, because you know, like my brother lost his wife, I think 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was so crazy that you know, the family, they said, no, Tina, she said when she dies, this is what we must do for her. Crazy stuff, things. You know, that woman was an intercessor. The former wife of my brother, she was a praying woman. And some of the things which the family were coming up with, it was things that even in a biggest dream, she would never talk about those kind of stuff. You know? So I think it is a conversation that we need to have about us who are still alive. How do you want to be sent off? So 100%. That you don't bring confusion when you are dead.
When you're dead. Yeah. But my estate planner told me you can't rule from the dead. But let's not. I think we've exhausted this one. But Muruti, I heard you. Thank you very much for clarifying some of the things. They were not sitting well in my head. But it was the.
No, and I'm really sorry about the passing of your grandmother.
No, thank you.
I can tell that you are even still grieving.
No, definitely. Yeah. But you are here to help me stop the grief. You know, you've got pastors everywhere.
Yeah.
So the last thing I need us to really, I can't not talk about this one. You see, musicians.
Yeah.
Sango. Media. These are sangomas. Media of. That's what he said. Something like that.
Yeah.
So, at your church, what relationship do you have with musicians? I know you've booked Joy Celebration, but I don't know in terms of musicians. Are they important to the church? Are they a fundamental key factor in the running of the church? Should musicians be paid? Should musicians be looked after? What's your view around that?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question to start with. You know, I worked for One Gospel for almost 10 years. From the time One Gospel started, I've been there. And one of the things which I learned at that time was the value of gospel musicians, because I interacted with a lot of them. In fact, with all of them. There was no gospel musician who's a recording artist in South Africa that I never interacted with. And one thing that I can say is that gospel musicians and pastors should have a very good relationship, because pastors are shareholders in gospel music, directly or indirect.
Very true, actually.
You know, and you can never have a service without involving gospel musicians. You know, there's something that I love about the American church. You know, in America, my brother, every church pay loyalty for the music that they sing. Every church.
Ooh.
Yes. Every church. It is in there. Every pastor knows. Every year you get a form and you fill in which songs are sung in your church. And you pay a certain amount of money to the like
organization,
to the organization, like here in South Africa, Samro.
There's a
CCLI,
CCLI.
Yes.
CCLI.
Yes, you should. In fact, every church in South Africa must get a form. And if we are singing the songs of Uzaza or Ukeke, we need to fill in the kind of songs that we are singing.
Correct.
And
so they can eat.
yes, so that they can eat. Now, another question is, must the church pay
musicians.
the musicians? That's a $1 million question. Because to a certain extent, I also question, why must pastors be paid? Because I want pastors to go and work. You know, my apartment, the bed I'm using, and
That's a farm. That's not an apartment.
the bed I'm using and the sofa.
Yeah.
It was made by gospel musician Ugundo. Gundo, you know, Ugundo started this business, and I
Really?
said, yes, he started the business. He makes customized furniture. Gundo, the musician.
The musician.
Yes, and I said, I'm going to support you, and he furnished my whole apartment. Yeah, not the farm.
Oh, another one. Hallelujah.
You know, he furnished my whole apartment, everything there, including the TV stand.
Yeah.
You know, he started this business during COVID of making customized items. You know, and every gospel musician must go work, because you won't tell me that you are doing music every day of your life from 7 to 9 p.m. Every pastor must discover a passion and do business. You know, my brother. You never asked me how I became a businessman. I preached somewhere, and this Muslim guy came to me and said to me, "Oh, you almost converted me." He said to me, "You know, the way you speak, the way you preach, you can make a good businessman. You can make a good consultant. If you can convince people to believe in the Jesus they don't see and in the heaven they don't see, you can convince them. You call an altar call and they come to the front and repent. If you can do that, there's no product you cannot sell."
Sure. Actually.
You know, then after that, I said, what? Then I became a self-made consultant. And you know one of the things that I've sold an helicopter.
You sold a helicopter?
Yes, I sold an helicopter. I was in DRC, and somebody was telling me that the president is looking for 2 helicopters. Can you organize? I said, yes. And they had no
You've
clue.
never-
I picked up a phone, went to I called someone. I was in DRC. I phoned somebody in South Africa at Rand Airport. They've got offices there. They said, "I'm calling from Congo. I'm a businessman, and the president of DRC is looking for a helicopter. Can you organize for me one?" And they organized me a helicopter, and I made a markup, 2 million on one product.
Sure.
So then I realized that even today, if I can show Jesus to the people and people believe in Jesus, I can sell a microphone and I can be good at it. You understand? So hence every pastor, every man of God, every preacher has the capacity of being a self-made consultant.
Sure. Because they are trusted.
Yes.
And they've got so much influence. Actually, you're making sense.
Yes.
The only part I don't agree with is musicians. Music. Music is a lot of work, eh? Music
It is a lot of work.
It
Just
is a
like
lot of work.
just like you know Solomon Klango. I will mention his name because it's my friend. He won't be angry with me. Usoli, he said to me, Phiri, I am making a decision now. Either to push my music or to focus on the church. Then he said further that focusing on the church, the time that you spend when you focus on the church is the same time you spend when you focus on
Your music.
on music. Then he said, I'll take a break because I want to invest in the church. Because we were talking to another musician, you know, and I've spoken to a lot of musicians who have been in ministry, including like Usbu Banda now, started a church.
Yes.
The value you put into ministry is the same value that you put into the music project. Nevertheless, if you are to conquer poverty, you can never depend upon the church to give you some money for you to live, and you know you need to have multiple streams of income. This doesn't only. That's why I'm very much careful when you ask me the question: must be a musician be paid? Yes or no? It depends. If I'm running a church of 3,000 people, I had people that were working in the church whom I was paying on a monthly basis. You know, in my church. At one point, I had the Soweto Gospel Choir. They came to my church, and I asked an account number from each member of Soweto Gospel Choir for me to bless them. I've done that, and I can speak it proudly right here on this platform. But then at the same time, there's no church that has got the capacity to pay a pastor, or there's no church that has got the capacity to pay a musician, because the work that goes into music is a lot of work. Hence, even Mina, I would say this, my brother, that if I was going to depend upon the church for my lifestyle, then I'll start faking miracles. The reason why we've got fake pastors or fake miracles, it is because we want to attract the people to see that Phiri is more anointed. You know, do music as your hobby, do music as your career, but have an extra ways of making money.
You see, Murutine, today, the whole day, I was agreeing with you. The music one. Music alone.
Remember Bishop Busasono? He said something like that.
I can't garden a musician.
And they were angry. Musicians were angry.
But hey, let's not go back.
Let's not go there.
I think music is also a vocation. It's also a calling. It's also hard work. For a musician to I don't want to say to minister at that level, gospel musicians in particular, it takes a lot, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't want us to dwell too much on that. But I feel like they should be paid if there's a budget.
Sure.
I feel like they should be compensated, remunerated, thanked, not just exposure. So music is one of the oldest careers in the world.
Yes.
One of the oldest careers in the world. So they've been there. So, and they I feel like the musicians play a very important part in society. That's why before the inauguration, there's singers. Before there's praise, before there's the preaching, there's singers.
Yes.
Before we put somebody before we bury somebody, we sing.
Yeah.
So singing and in music is a big part of what we do. But Natamruti, I want to take this opportunity to thank you very much for taking your time to come here. I thought we were going to sit for an hour. Shoo, I look at the time now and I realize, wow, there's so much I wanted to ask you. There's some of the, I feel like it's the Holy Spirit that says, leave this one.
Yeah.
Leave this one, because in podcast we feel like we need to expose certain things, and I had an edge in my spirit that certain things they're not important. I think whatever was important you delivered today.
Absolutely.
And we spoke about it, and obviously we take, especially you're a celebrity pastor now, you know, you're on TV, so people had cancelled you, and there was such negativity around you. I was like, hate that one. But when I listened to your preaching about Dominion, you're with the former mayor, Palatz.
Paul Palatz.
Palatz, yes. I was like, hey, You are still there. You still have it. So just want to appreciate you and say, even the tough things that came into your life, man, those are in the past. I don't know. I'm not saying you are squeaky clean, but I know I had a feeling that your heart is in the right place.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd like to urge you to please continue. The Umbuso Zulu must grow. So
Amen.
The work of the Lord must still continue. And then I feel like you're the vehicle.
Amen.
To the little that you have is about to be, hey, I'm preaching now. So Tadamruti, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming through. It's not everyone who comes, ne?
Yeah.
I believe people who come here are ordered, you know.
Yeah.
But on the Gospel Reality podcast, you don't just go. Ne?
Yeah.
You don't just go. We've got a bit of a gift for you. If you can check there, that's a shower gel. Mfundisi, igeza nezono.
Amen.
From our sponsor, Little Laka, ne?
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
From our sponsor, igeza nezono. Sins as white as snow.
Amen.
So when I wipe away alcohol out. Everything out, Mruti. That's from our sponsor to you.
Beautiful.
And then from the Gospel Reality podcast, we've got what we call a hot and cold.
Okay.
Yeah. See those 3 bottles there?
Okay.
You can choose the color you want.
Oh.
But I heard you speak about EFF. There's a red one there.
Okay, this one. Yeah. Wow, beautiful.
It's a Gospel Reality podcast. It's a hot and cold. It keeps hot things hot.
Wow.
Cold things cold.
Oh, okay, beautiful.
It's like a modern day flask, you know. So please use it.
Proverbs
Yeah.
27.
Yeah. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, ne?
Yeah. So what we were doing today, we were sharpening each other.
Yeah.
I think you were doing most of the sharpening.
Yeah.
But I believe in your ministry. Please keep
Thank you
shining.
very much.
Please
Thank
keep
you.
going. Black Child can go very far with you, not just in ministry, but
Amen.
in business.
Amen. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah.
Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, Akhoto Ibe Lilo. Wow.
Yo.